Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Have you come to know about the aggressive push by some provincial governments and by the federal governments? And this push is to digitize Canada. In the coming future, in the couple of months, you will find that digital IDs, identities, and the digital currency would be a norm in this country. It's quite a welcome thing. We have to keep up with the advances in technology. We have to ensure safety. But more often than not, people are taken in by the propaganda, by the jargon, by the camouflage, the covering, and seem to ignore the seamy aspect, the darker aspect. I would welcome digital ID and currency coming to Canada with some caveats so that the concerns that the real thinking people have, most of the people are not aware of, but the people who really care are aware of those concerns and they are very valid concerns. As I said, Canada is on the edge of digital identification and currency. And several provinces, including the largest province, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick, along with the federal government, are planning to launch a digital ID in this year. That's 2022. And the federal government is partnering with several organizations and lobbyist groups so they can have the capability of a nationwide digital ID. One thing, when the provincials provide the ID and the federal government provides the ID, which one would you prefer? So there might be a conflict. As a matter of fact, the federal government should have taken an initiative so that there is some uniformity. Now the digital ID by Ontario might have some lacuna which is fixed up in Saskatchewan, but both of them may be in conflict with the coming federal one. But before we go further, now what exactly is this digital ID? And this is where the crux is. Each government jurisdiction would create a digital wallet, which could be an app that can be downloaded on your phone. So number one, you have to have a smartphone. So the manufacturer of smartphone must be full of glee and happiness. Person like me, I don't have a smartphone, I don't need it. So I'll have to go in for a smartphone. Phone is not only for communication, so this app, because that is your identification. And now this app would hold your driver license, your bank information, your social insurance number, SIN card, your health card, citizenship, and even your health information like vaccination status. The goal is that anything that can be digitized should be digitized, and your wallet should have one place where all information is there. And then this information can be shared via online services or digital tools at businesses. Tap and go via smartphone has already been a popular form of payment for years. Google Pay, Apple Pay, and so on. And all the Canadian provinces and federal governments implemented a QR code-based vaccine passport, which acts on the same principle as a digital ID. The vaccine passports especially appear to be a trial run on the acceptability of the digital ID, and it has been found that the people by and large accepted it. Now, Ontario, which is the largest province with a population of 14.3 million people, that is 38% of the total population of Canada, is scheduled to release the digital ID this fall. And according to the Ontario government, digital ID is an electronic version of trusted government that provides better safety, more security, stronger privacy than the physical identification cards on the document. Now, this is something not very right. Is it really true? Imagine if you know something about the computer system, these digital forms of IDs would not be held on a central server, but they will be locally held on your phone, on the app. And the website, if you see, the government website does not address how the central server supporting the app do not have access to the information stored on the app. Maybe all the information stored on the app is also going to central servers. So that raises a security issues. And to address this issue, the government says your data is protected using strong encryption, and unlike your physical wallet, your digital ID can be turned off if your phone is stolen or lost. The government can shut off access to your app on your phones. Now, is that security? No, the reality is it's more like a government control. If the government can shut it off, it can also see any person sitting at the control can view all your information, your password, your bank account, your bank system, and the possibility of misuse is there. Then Saskatchewan is another province that is aggressively pursuing digital ID. Interestingly, one journalist submitted a Freedom of Information Act of Saskatchewan's Digital ID initiative to see if it includes the vaccine status. And the bureaucracy in Saskatchewan, they tell her to pay $15,000 before the information can be given to them, given to that reporter. 15,000 rupees? That means the government has really something to hide about. That transparency is not there. Something, somewhere stinks. The financial institutions now in Canada, all the banks, are heavily investing in creating digital ID, Interact, and Transonation. The Transonation is a payment service organizations, and they are all promoting Canadians adopting digital IDs. KPMG Canada, a financial advisory company with $1 billion turnover annually, is also pushing for digital ID. And that digital ID should be integrated with the financial institutions. The Banking Association is spearheading and putting pressure on the federal government to use Canadian banks to be the foundation of digital ID across the country. Now, this would result in a tie-up between the Canadian banks and the federal bureaucracy, much more closer, much more well-knit than today it is. And World Economic Forum, of course, is fighting it. So with the financial sector investing in creating a digital ID, it is naturally a corollary will be there that will lead to the next development, that's a digital currency. So the dollar that you see today may not be there, it might be a cryptocurrency. And the Bank of Canada is actively working with the government to study the feasibility of a central bank digital currency. They call it CBDC, central bank digital currency. If that happens, then what impact would be there from at least half a dozen other currencies that are being there? Now, what's the motive behind pushing for a digital currency? Creating a digital currency would give the federal government, through the central bank, control on the wealth of the people. Cash allows an individual to have financial assets separate from institutional and government control. A digital dollar would make everything linked to the government and your wealth is literal numbers on a screen. And they are not transferable to a physical commodity. You cannot have any financial transaction, paycheck, increase in wealth without the cooperation of the government and the banks. They are literally controlling it. The goal behind creating digital ID and digital currency, which many fear, is the government control. Now, Rutherford Institute is a very, very capable think tank, and they say, and they quote economist Steve Forbes, the real reason for this war on cash. Start with the big bills and work your way down is an ugly power grab by the big governments. People will have less privacy. Electronic commerce makes it easier for the big brother to see what we are doing. Don't you see the shades of 1984 here? So what will happen? It will make things simpler to bar activities it doesn't like. For example, the government doesn't want, from health reasons, to purchase salt, sugar, big bottles of pop and Big Macs. So, you go there, the payment is refused. This is how a cashless society would be easily monitored, controlled, manipulated, weaponized, and locked up. And this cashless society plays right into the hands of the government. Hey, stop. Not only the government, but its corporate partners. The dark reality of the control could be vivid in the minds of every citizen, Canadian. Only a few weeks back, during that march, the protest march, the Canadian government and the bank froze people's personal accounts, blacklisted them from the financial services, restricted travel, and censored them on the social media because they supported the protest. And it was done through an illegal use of Emergency Act. But it does show one thing, the tremendous control the government has on the citizens of the banks. Now imagine in case the digital ID and currency was there. They could easily have locked on people out of their digital IDs on their phones, bank cards, frozen all their money without their option of using cash. And that would mean cutting off their access to use their own money, their ability to legally drive a car because your driving license is stopped. You can't travel to a different country, your passport is not working, and you can't even access health care because your health card is not there. So digital ID and currency allow the government and corporates to completely lock down your life. It would also give the government and law enforcement the ability to monitor all transactions. On one side it's good, let me tell you, because the black money would be controlled. Because you can't do anything discreetly or using private cash. That's good. But then, the Liberal government is planning to introduce to make crowdfunding and cryptocurrencies report transactions to FinTrack, which is good. But the privacy, the control, the big brother overseeing everything, that makes me fear about the positive aspects. And as I say, it's better to let go 1,000 criminals, but one innocent person may not be harmed. The other is also true. One instance and all the good action is nullified. The digital currency would make all the financial transactions easy to scrutinize. But if the scrutinizer is a corrupt government itself, then what happens? We have seen the vaccine passports in India, how effective digital IDs are at attacking and controlling people. So seizing more control of the people's life is always the agenda of the communism and radical left. Is the government planning to be the big brother, big boss? Like in China, your children can report on you if you are not conforming to the rules. Looks like that the Western thinking is being clouded by the communist thinking. And it can't be denied that our Prime Minister is a firm admirer of Fidel Castro and President Xi. Even if the opponents of these kinds of powers succeed, look at how much liberty you have lost already. So is it another assault on liberty in the garb of providing ease of business? In case the safeguards are not built in, then this digitization is opening the doors for tyranny from the extreme left. This is going to impact you in a profound manner, and I am amazed that the media, the thinkers and the think tanks have not come up to see the possibility, except by the Ford Institute. You need to know that is it absolutely good or is there a hidden meaning? Are your lives likely to be controlled at the behest of the powers that be? And you become just an automaton? Of course, I agree that everything has a negative and positive aspect. But we have got to ensure that the negative aspects are minimized. And let me tell you, if they compromise your liberty, your freedom, then they are not, however good they may be, they are not worth a candle. Because they will make some Patrick Henry cry out, give me liberty or give me death. We don't want that. But we want liberty definitely, even if it means a bit more hassles. Think about it, what you are in for. Thank you.